What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the MMA Roundtable, the first one in a while. So we got a whole bunch to talk about. We got, of course, a full plate of news, like always. And because this is the first Roundtable of the year, we, of course, got to bring you the Roundtable Awards, all of our knockout, sub-card, fight, and fighter of the year. Of course, we got our boneheads. Of course, we got Guess That Tweet. We're going to be breaking down tomorrow night's card. Let's do it. And thank you again for tuning in. It is the MMA Roundtable, and like I said, it has been a hot minute, ladies and gentlemen. I think the last Roundtable was in October, so I am very happy to bring it back, along with just talking to all of these cool people on the show. Once again, thank you to the listeners, and without any further ado, let me introduce everyone on the call today. First off, he's been around since the first round table. He's one of the two gentlemen. It's a little tricky trying to do a show with him because of the 7-hour time difference, but we make it happen anyway. The guy has lost like 18 stone or something in the last 11 weeks. He's getting ready for an exhibition MMA fight of his own. He is one of the nicest people in the MMA business, Ray Thompson. What's going on, buddy?
Thanks for that introduction. Not quite 18 stone, but 38 pebbles, as Jay says on the chat. Yeah, things are going good. Keeping busy, training for a fight, out doing running every morning to lose weight. That's my biggest goal, really. And then looking to get in and step in and taste the life of a fighter on March 15th at Ellen Road, which is Leeds United's football ground. So it should be good fun. But looking forward to doing the show. Some old faces back, which I haven't spoke to you for a while. So looking forward to that as well.
Definitely, yeah. And let's keep on revealing some more of those faces. If we're already across the pond, we may as well introduce the other guy we're talking to across the pond. One of my best friends from the MMA playground and just in life in general. We're always talking on Facebook about usually things R and X rated, but sometimes MMA. Jay Jeans, what's going on, man?
Yeah, everything's good with me. Too much X-rated stuff, I think, especially this morning. That was not a good conversation, but we'll move quickly on. But yeah, all's good with me, and congratulations, Ray, on the weight loss, buddy. You're doing well.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, we definitely would not want to bring up that conversation from this morning. Another guy who, I haven't talked to him in a few months, but he is one of my favorite damn people, coming from the Palmdale area. I wish I had the song queued up by Afro Man, but just play it inside your head. It's P-Money. What's going on, dude?
Gentlemen, just hanging, starting 2014 off the bang, doing the roundtable right. It's the reunion. Very psyched to do it. Psyched to preview tomorrow's Fight Night card. And can't wait to talk some MMA with some true MMA junkies.
It is the damn reunion, and let's get into it. First, though, I want to remind you that for us, you can follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Visit themmapodcast.com. We do the MMA Podcast every Monday night, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. We're going to try and do more roundtables, and those have generally been on Tuesday. But for all of us, if you want to follow us on Twitter, once again, me, it's the MMA Podcast. Ray, it's MMA Mental. Jay, it's J_Jeans. Patrick, oh shit, I skipped someone. Chris, my God, what is going on? I put Patrick last in the order, and once he stopped talking, I figured it was time to move on. I feel really bad now. Chris, what's going on, dude?
What am I, fucking chopped liver over here? What it do, man? I'm
it does.
To be back to podcasting.
Yeah.
And like everyone said, the boys are back in town. The family's back together. Let's fucking eat.
You can follow Chris on Twitter at CLowenstein, Patrick at Sweet Pappy Jones. Of course, follow the whole family of people. Our boy Ramses, the Aunt Jimmy Show, the Truth, Westland, Eagle, Ross Finkelstein, all those cool bastards. Let's get on to the news. The first bit of news is going to be something we're going to be talking about for a long, long time. UFC 168, one of, even though it was terrible, I'm going to say one of the most memorable endings to any UFC fight as Anderson hurt his leg really badly. But his leg is apparently healing quickly. Dana says he's going to be walking around on crutches in 30 days. And the question I want to throw out there is pretty simple. When will his next fight be, and who is it going to be against? You think he fights this year in 2014? Think it's another year? Think he never fights again? Personally, I think it's going to be a November or December fight in Brazil against Michael Bisping. Of course, it's going to be in Brazil because it's his return fight, and it's looking like late 2014, early 2015. We'll probably see him back. He seems motivated to come back. Ray, when's his next fight going to be, and who do you think it'll be against?
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with Anderson Silva. I don't think he should come back. I think he should leave his legacy the way it is now. I mean, it was what happened against Weidman was absolutely horrendous. But as far as I'm concerned, Anderson Silva's got absolutely nothing to prove. Regardless of how those two fights went against Weidman, he's still, in my opinion, the greatest of all time. And I don't know what's his motivation for coming back. He's held the belt for a long time. He's a multi-millionaire because he's made good money from what he's doing because of how good he is. And how's he going to be throwing strikes, throwing leg kicks? Because it's going to be in his head not to throw that leg again. Because, I mean, that leg it was absolutely shattered. So I don't know if he'll be back. I hope that he won't be back personally.
Word, Jay?
It's a tough call, man. It's crazy to even think he's going to be walking. Once you saw that kick, it looked like it had broken in about 100 places. But, as Ray mentioned, it would be crazy to see him back. And would he be throwing kicks? All I can hope is he's drinking his milk and having calcium. Would I want to see him back? Only if he's done enough scans to make sure that nothing like that is ever going to happen again, because that was painful to watch, and it's a shame to see somebody in that much of a legacy, the greatest of all time, just fall down and is rolling around in pain like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, watching the replay, I almost cringe more when he steps back and steps on, puts his weight on the broken leg than it actually, breaking. Patrick, what are your thoughts on the return of the greatest of all time?
Yeah, it sounds like he's tracked for a fast recovery. I really can't even believe the time frame that they're putting out there. I don't know if I want to see him return, just like everybody else has mentioned before. What else do you have to accomplish? He's one of the pound-for-pound best, 185-pound champ. I don't think – a lot of people say that his chin is gone. I've heard a lot of talk about that. I don't think his chin is gone. As it's been mentioned, there's just the psychological aspect of throwing the leg kicks. I still believe he could beat just about everybody at 185 pounds who's not named Chris Weidman. But at this point, he's already done it. So what's the point in going back?
Definitely. Chris?
Yeah, man. Like everyone said, that was super terrible to see. Not only to anyone that fights in mixed martial arts or combat sports, but Anderson fucking Silva, man. I mean, if you would have asked me a couple years back how he would have gone out, wouldn't have been like that. Now, I'm surprised none of you thought this. I honestly think Super Bowl weekend 2015, we're going to see GSP Anderson Silva. I think Anderson will be healed up by then. I think GSP will have that fire back, and that would be the greatest selling pay-per-view of all time. So I'm really calling that one.
For sure, yeah. Actually, that's a really good call. A lot of people have been saying GSP could be his next fight, and we all know that that has been the Mayweather Pacquiao of MMA for a long time now. So that would be really fun to see as well. Let's switch gears, go from middleweight down to lightweight. Khabib Nurmagomedov seems to be the best lightweight in the world right now, without a future opponent, aside from people who are injured and, outside of the UFC. And no one wants to seem to fight Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov. Nate Diaz apparently recently offered the fight. Dana White and the UFC said Nate Diaz turned down the fight. Diaz said they were lying. Later on, the truth came out that Diaz was not offered enough money. So as far as, who's to blame and whose quote-unquote side you're taking here, who messed up? Is it Dana White and the UFC for lying, saying Diaz turned down the fight? You obviously can't put anything on the Eagle for just being good and no one wanting to fight him. But do you blame Diaz? Do you blame Mike Kogan, his manager? Jay, whose side are you taking here?
I'm taking Khabib's side, believe it or not. That's not really the answer you're looking for. I think that Nate Diaz, he probably just said no to the fight and didn't give an explanation because, I doubt Dana White listens to every word Nate Diaz has to say. Man, it must be a headache talking to him on the phone. I'm sure Cesar Gracie or whoever Nate Diaz's manager talks to Dana for him. And Nate probably just said no. Dana thought he didn't want the fight, but it probably is a money issue. I mean, Nate Diaz recently said after his last fight, they don't pay me enough to keep making 155. So I don't know whether he has plans to go back to welterweight or what. But I think if he fought anybody in that division, it'd be not enough money, especially a guy who's undefeated. He's 21-0 right now with no real signs of weakness. If you're Nate Diaz and you want to 0 against the guy who's beaten you, the guys who's already beaten you, I can see why he wouldn't want this fight. I mean, I don't know what the real reason is. Maybe Nate Diaz needs more money for marijuana or some shit, but whatever. Khabib's looking like a beast, and it's just adding more feathers into Khabib's cap, really, that nobody wants to fight him.
Hey, smoke weed every day. Patrick?
Yes, and for that matter, if you turn down a fight because there's not enough money in it for you, you're still turning down a fight. It doesn't mean you're scared to fight that particular opponent, but not agreeing to terms and conditions is turning down a fight. Of course, that's understandable. Taking on, at least in my opinion, it's understandable. Taking on a high-ranked opponent like Khabib, Nate Diaz wants to get back in the win column. I happen to think that's a favorable matchup for Diaz, or at least a competitive one, given both of the fighters' skill sets. But, yeah. I don't know. You can't really. I don't know who to believe in a Nate Diaz, Dana White smack talking back and forth. That's just. It's fun to sit back and watch, though.
Definitely, Chris. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when we're taking a side here, the question is whose side are you taking? Honestly, I don't think we're ever really gonna know exactly what went down. Everyone's got their own fucking answer. What I take out of this is that the Diaz brothers are out of their fucking minds. These guys are talking about title shots. Fucking Nick Diaz lost 2 fights in a row, and he's saying, I'll only come back for a title shot. You got to earn it. Nate Diaz hasn't looked that great lately. And as far as what Patrick said about a favorable matchup, dude, I think fucking Khabib would mop the floor with Nate Diaz. I like the Diaz brothers, but it wasn't that long ago that Nate Diaz got completely dominated by Joe Stevenson and Clay Guida in grappling, and Khabib is on a whole nother level than those guys. So I can't really blame him for not wanting the fight. I mean, I think he would get his ass kicked.
And you definitely bring up an interesting topic of saying that you deserve a title shot when you really don't. And it's funny because aside from the Diaz brothers, who is the one we associate with doing that? Roy Nelson, coincidentally, another client of Mike Kogan's, who is Nate Diaz's manager. And look, Nate definitely didn't make enough in his last fight against Gray. Gray Maynard made $45,000 to show. Nate Diaz made $15,000 to show. But you know what? I don't know the specifics, but it sounds like a little bit of mismanagement's going on over there with Kogan and his fighters. Ray, what are your thoughts?
The problem, I get what you're saying. I didn't know the figures. The problem with Nate Diaz's and same with Nick Diaz is they've both got a reputation for whinging. And it's the whole kind of cries wolf thing. So they whinge about so much all the time that when they have got a genuine case, you tend not to listen because they've whinged about other things in the past when it hasn't been, when it's been a bit OTT. And of course, we've seen Nick kind of play on it, especially with the whole build-up to the GSP fight. I mean, he sold that fight brilliantly as him being the hard-up, but I don't believe they're as hard as they let on. I think probably Nate turned it down because of the money. It doesn't surprise me. It's right up their street. I think Nate and Khabib would be competitive, but I think Khabib would win. I think the biggest thing would be his grappling and his control. I don't think he'd put Nate away because Nate's a hard guy to stop. We've only seen Josh Thompson do that. But yeah, I think the fight was probably offered. And Nate's used the fact that he's not happy with the pay as a reason not to take the fight. And if they did fight, I think Khabib would win.
Yeah, and I totally totally agree. And as much as I would like to see Diaz versus Pettis, I mean, Pettis wants Diaz, Diaz wants Pettis. There's a lot of bad blood there. But Diaz doesn't deserve a shot. The dude's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. Come on, son. All right, let's move on to the next topic. UFC on Fox Orlando. Of course, I live in Florida my entire life. They don't put on one decent UFC card for me to watch. And now that I'm moved away from Florida, they plan a UFC on Fox card in Orlando that all my friends back home better go to. It's going to be April 19th. And currently 2 fights announced for the card are Verdum versus Brown and Tate versus Carmouche. Rumors that Verdum Brown's going to be the co-main event, and the main event is yet to be announced. But so far, we definitely have Fabricio Verdum and Travis Brown for what is for all intents and purposes going to be the #1 title contender match at heavyweight. We also have Miesha Tate versus Liz Carmouche. Both women trying to get back on the right track after losses. What are your thoughts about these 2 fights? And shoot, if you have any pressing thoughts on Florida, go ahead and speak now or forever hold your peace. Patrick?
Well, I like the fights. I like Travis Brown versus Verdum. Obvious title eliminator. That's just going to be fireworks all the way around. Travis Brown's looking on fire. Verdum's been out for a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Like you mentioned, Liz Carmouche and Miesha Tate, they're both coming off of losses. I'm not a huge fan of that fight. I don't really like it too much stylistically. I just feel they're built so similar. Kind of mid-range striking game, mid to high-level grappling game. I think it's just kind of going to be a wash. And being that they're both, I mean, Miesha Tate's 0-2 in the UFC, and Carmouche is 1-2. So I'm hoping that one doesn't make it to the main card.
Word, Chris.
Hey, sorry about that. Fucking mute issues. As always, my bad. I think the card's all right. It's definitely not one of the greatest ones ever. You know, it's kind of flying under the radar. And as far as the matchups, Verdum and Brown, I think Fabricio Verdum has looked good with his striking lately. We can all agree on that. But let's not forget that every single guy that he's fought since coming back to the UFC has been either fat, slow, or old. That's it. That's end of the story. I mean, we got Roy Nelson, we got Mike Russo, and we got Old Man Nog. He hasn't proven himself against a legit, talented, athletic heavyweight yet in the UFC, and he's going to get that with Travis Brown, who is anything but fat, slow, and old.
For sure, Ray. What are your thoughts on this?
I really like the Brown Verdum fight. I agree with what Chris has said in the sense of that, you know, Brown is. I think Brown's leagues ahead of Verdum, but I think the fight makes sense because they're the 2 guys that are on the run. Pretty much like JDS and Mark Hunt made sense for #1 contendership. I think the winner of this should get the title fight. I think Brown will smash through Verdum. I mean, what Brown did to Josh Barnett, I've seen Barnett fight for years. I've never seen anyone do that to him. It was just so impressive. And as for Miesha Tate and Liz Carmouche, I like the matchup. I think Miesha Tate, she's lost 2 fights, but both the fights have been fight of the night performances because she just brings it every single time. And, you know, Liz is very aggressive style as well. I'd like to see Miesha Tate get a win. I think she's such a... Well, I personally liked her after the season of Ultimate Fighter, and I like her fighting style. So I'm looking forward to that fight, and I hope to see Miesha Tate pick up her first UFC victory.
And finally, Jay, I interrupted you there. My bad.
It's all right, man. Yeah, I really like the fight. I mean, Verdum has a style that it's an interesting fight for Kane because it's a guy who's going to be out there throwing head kicks and throwing flying knees and stuff without the fear of the takedown. We've never really seen Kane ever fought a guy who's not afraid to go to the mat with him. I mean, Big Nog kind of, but he got knocked out before it turned into a grappling match. And Verdum's 3-0, and he's got some nice finishes in there. I mean, the Nelson fight, he made him look like a punching bag, and the Big Nog fight was crazy. I see what you mean about Travis Brown, and he should be in line. But that Antonio Silva fight, it showed you that, you know, anything can happen in these fights, and he might also be 3-0 as well. But he did take a huge hit from Bigfoot, and he just went down like a pile of bricks. So we don't really know how we don't really know how good he is once he's taken a few leg kicks. So it's the right match for both men in this career, and it's a hell of a fight. I'm really looking forward to that one. If it's not main event, I think they got an issue with that, because the whole point of the Fox thing is exposing fighters, giving them a chance to see the main stage. I mean, it will be a 5-round match, so they'll have more preparation for Kane. So if it's not a 5-round fight, I'd be quite surprised. But DJ's always around, so whatever, we'll find out.
We definitely will. As far as my picks there, Tate versus Carmouche, at least now, too close to call. Verdum Brown, I have Travis Brown as well. Let's move on. Speaking of Browns, Matt Brown made the news recently on his podcast, his new podcast, Legit Man Shit, that I've yet to listen to. He apparently made the comment that women have no KO power and would like them to fight topless, and a lot of people are talking about him being sexist. I honestly haven't listened to it and don't know what context it's in. If it's in the context and intent of women's fights are worthless and I hate WMMA and I would only watch if they were topless, okay. But I'm pretty sure he was just making a joke that he would prefer to see them fight topless. I mean, I've heard interviews with him before, and he doesn't sound like a dumb person. He sounds kind of funny. That dry sense of humor. And then the next day, you had Ronda Rousey saying she wants, 57 of Fedor's babies, which to me, that's just a complete double standard. You have one guy saying he likes topless chicks, and he's sexist, and then a girl wants a dude's babies, and it's funny, and it's not sexist. And I'm not saying Ronda's comment was sexist. I'm saying neither were. But imagine if Brown said he wanted Ronda Rousey's babies, and Ronda Rousey said, she would want to see all dudes fight in banana hammocks. People would still be saying that Matt Brown is sexist. So I pass the topic off to you all. What do you think? Chris, was this a sexist comment?
Well, I'll tell you what. First off, you said you want to listen to it. You can't. It got pulled down from SoundCloud. Like the morning after all this shit went down, I tried to listen to it. It's gone forever. So I don't think you're ever going to be able to listen to it. Sadly, like myself, I wanted to give a listen. But I fall into the idea that we should all be able to say what we want and let people judge you on an individual basis. That's how I live my life. I say what I want. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business. It's a company. Like any job, there's standards and practices. You can't go up to a girl and say, I wish you would work here topless. You can't do it, man. So in today's day and age, yeah, it's seen as sexist. I mean, that's a bonehead thing to say. Let people think he's a bonehead. That's the way I see it.
Bone. Ray?
I didn't hear the comment either. I didn't know it had been pulled down, but again, I can't imagine him saying it as a serious. I just think he said it very tongue-in-cheek. A bit like when Conor McGregor said he'd like to have a Misha Tate and a Ronda Rousey sandwich. So I think it's fair. I don't think any of the women, I don't think they would take a comment like that seriously. I mean, yeah, I'd love to see some of the female fighters topless. I mean, I wouldn't want to see Liz Carmouche topless, but I'd quite happily see Ronda Rousey or Misha Tate topless. But I can't take a comment like that seriously, to be honest with you. It's just he's saying a blokey thing. It's a kind of thing you say when you're out with your mates, kind of thing. I wouldn't take anything like that serious. I think he's just pissing around.
Jay, what are your thoughts on Matt Brown's comments and topless fighters?
Well, I've got to say that in reply to Ray's comment, Liz Carmouche is a lesbian, so she probably doesn't want to see you topless either, Ray.
I've got boobies, so she might like it.
Oh my god.
Anyway, getting back to the point, when the one thing I noticed was his statistic about women's knockouts. All I can say is in the divisions, Matt Brown's a welterweight and Rousey's a female bantamweight. There's more TKOs in female bantamweight bouts than there are welterweight divisions. So you need to check your statistics before you talk Matt Brown. I also don't know what he's really on about. The context, I think you guys are kind of right. It was in a jokey way. He was, but it sounded to me, I didn't really catch it, but I heard people, I do know somebody who managed to listen to it, and it sounded like, yeah, he was joking, but he also, I think his exact phrase was something like, I don't know why they even put women in the UFC. So his comment was still kind of out of line. So yeah, he is still a bonehead for saying it.
Word. Patrick?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to listen to the podcast either. I mean, this is Matt Brown. He's the immortal. What does he do? He goes out and knocks people out for a living. The name of his podcast is Real Man Shit. Come on now. We really can't take anything too heavy-hearted from just based on that alone. So I certainly think it's getting blown out of proportion a little bit. I would be willing to wager if you were to talk to Matt Brown, he would say on a serious level that he's glad to have women's mixed martial arts in the UFC. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but as someone who enjoys martial arts myself in all forms, I'm definitely more than excited to have WMMA in the UFC, and I think it's just been awesome thus far.
For sure. And on that note, we do have our end of 2013 awards, but speaking of bonehead comments, you know what time it is.
Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for you, what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you, 'cause it's gonna come for you.
Alright, my bonehead is more of a legacy bonehead. I've probably picked him as my bonehead more than anyone else in mixed martial arts. For real, I've probably chosen him 5 or 6 times. He is the now leaving executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Keith Kaiser. He didn't do anything, but I'm just glad he's out. He said he is going to be leaving. This is going to have a lot of implications on a bunch of stuff, namely the thing people are talking about is Weidman versus Belfort. But Keith Kaiser, one of my least favorite government employees in the world. I'm so glad he's gone. I just can't speak enough evil about Keith Kaiser. Get the fuck out, Jay.
We just mentioned him. It's Matt Brown.
Simple enough, Ray.
I've gone for the World Series of Fighting. They've pulled the old stunt again, where you're a promotion, and then you look at a promotion that's bigger than you and you challenge them. We've seen it before with promotions trying to cross promote. They've decided to call out Bellator. It makes no sense for Bellator to cross promote because they've got a great business model. They put on great shows. I thought what was interesting though was the fact that after World Series of Fighting did that to Bellator, that the Access TV fights, which includes MFC, XFC, and RFA, they've done it to World Series of Fighting. So we'll see. I hope they take up that challenge. I think that'll be better. I'd rather see World Series of Fighting versus them 3 promotions than versus Bellator. So yeah, for calling out Bellator, World Series of Fighting is my bonehead of the week.
P. Money Murder.
Yes, sir. Well, my bonehead of the week is the UFC, because we've got this awesome fight card coming up tomorrow night, which we're going to break down shortly, and it's airing on a Wednesday. The time slot is just jacked up in the U.S., internationally. It just makes more sense to have it on the weekends, especially in the United States, where we can potentially, Fox would be able, and the UFC would be able to piggyback off of some of these playoff football ratings. They get a little spillover action and probably some decent numbers, but we got a Wednesday fight card, presumably to avoid the playoffs as opposed to exploit them. So for that reason, the UFC is my bonehead of the week.
And finally, Cristobal.
Thank you, sir. Mine's Anderson Silva. Listen, Anderson, you saying that Chris Weidman didn't really beat you in the rematch? Come on, dude. I mean, my dude, you had leg kicks in the first fight, and that was it. You got...
Sorry, I thought you were taking a break there. Go ahead and finish.
Jesus Christ.
Chris, come on. Chris, are you still there? Come on, Chris.
Did Chris pass out?
Mic issues. All right, Chris is having mic issues. He's picking Anderson Silva. I interrupted him. There he is.
Hello.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh, testing 1, 2, 3. My bad for
Yo.
keeping you guys waiting. Mine
It's all
is
good.
Anderson Silva for saying that Chris Weidman didn't legitimately beat him in that rematch. I mean, if you look at it, the only offense he ever had in both fights was leg kicks. He got knocked out clean in the first fight. He got dropped in the first round of the second fight. He broke his own leg on Chris Weidman's knee in the second fight. You got beat, dude, in both fights, and that's why you are my bonehead of the week.
That's right. Anderson Silva, Chris is bonehead. I think I confused Chris into thinking he had mic issues when I followed up with, yo, my dog. But apologies for that hiccup. We'll edit out in post, ladies and gentlemen. Let us move on to the end of 2013 awards. We haven't done a show yet in this beautiful year of 2014.
Jakey, you forgot something. We've got a vote on the bonehead of the week.
It has been a long time. Let us all vote on the bonehead of the week. Jesus Christ. All right, man. I got to go with Anderson. Him saying that he would have won the fight and it was an accident. Look, if you're saying you're confident in yourself and you think you would have won, that's one thing. But he went as far as to say that Chris Weidman shouldn't think of it as a win. Anderson Silva, like, maybe in your own head you can think of it like that, but don't try and take the man's win from him because he beat you twice. Jay?
This is a good one, but I think I've got to go with Chris as well for Anderson Silva, man. The first time there was some questions about it. The second time you mounted no offense. I got to go with Anderson Silva.
My vote's with Patrick, UFC Wednesday. I mean, I love UFC. I'll watch as much UFC as I can get my hands on, but midweek events, they just screw me over. You know, if I'm being on funny hours of the night, I've got to take the day off work next day just so I can watch it, because I can't go online till I've watched it because I don't want to know any bloody results. So, for me, bonehead of the week, UFC for a Wednesday card.
Well, for myself, I got to make it Anderson Silva just because I was even unaware of this statement that he made. If that is the case, Anderson Silva, my God, you got done dirty and it was legit. Weidman just put it down with some superior technique, and he's the new undisputed UFC champion. Deal with it.
For me, it's really easy and obvious. Keith Kaiser, because fuck Keith Kaiser.
Looks like Anderson Silva. We do have honorable mentions with Keith Kaiser and the UFC for planning their card for Wednesday, but Anderson Silva is our bonehead for not respecting the middleweight champion of the world. I almost said word, but I fixed it to world at the last second, and it came out sounding super weird. All right, let's move on to the end of 2013 awards. We did this on the MMA podcast, but we haven't done the roundtable yet, so let's just get right into it. We're going to talk about our knockout of the year, submission of the year, card of the year, fight of the year, and fighter of the year. And you know what? Our boy Ray has got to wake up early in the morning, so let's try and breeze through these at a rapid-like pace. Ray, you will start it off for each one of these categories. Knockout of the year, who you got?
Okay, I always struggle to remember all of them, so I'm just looking at what the short lists were, and I'm going to go through by looking at them. So for the knockout of the year, I'm going to go for Weidman over Silva, just because it was so dramatic and it was such a big moment in MMA history, I think. So I'm going to go for Weidman and Silva.
The infamous Bernie knockout. Jay?
This is a weird one, but it actually came back from a different promotion, not the UFC. I'm going with Bellator 90, King Mo versus Emmanuel Newton. That spinning back fist landing on the chin. Newton thinking, what did that just land? King Mo didn't even know how hard it hit. The commentators didn't see it coming. Nobody knew what was going on. It was absolutely crazy. But yeah, my award for knockout of the year goes to Emmanuel Newton.
And they snuggled.
Jay with the against the grain pick. P. Money Murda.
Well, this was just a crazy year for knockouts, crazy year for fights overall. I have to give it to Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson for putting it on Joe B and retaining that UFC flyweight title in an insane first round knockout. It was so violent and at such a low weight class. And I just want to say honorable mention to Paul Daly from Bama. Holy shit.
Yeah, my KO of the year is a tie. Vitor Belfort knocking out Dan Henderson. A lot of people say, hey, it's it wasn't a legit knockout, but he legitimately knocked out he who cannot be knocked out, and that is tied with obviously Chris Weidman dethroning the king, Anderson Silva.
You know, and what's kind of funny about you picking Belfort over Dan Henderson, a lot of people would argue that wasn't even one of his best 2 knockouts of the year. Belfort obviously having an impressive knockout against Luke Rockhold, another one against Michael Bisping. For me personally, I do have to give an honorable mention to Junior Dos Santos and Mark Hunt. The spinning back kick is a very technical move. Dos Santos threw it a little sloppy, but he still finished it. But I got to give it to Anthony Pettis knocking out Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone is an excellent fighter, and Pettis just stomped out there and finished him quick with that body shot where you literally could watch Cerrone's muscles just seize up, and then followed it up. Let's move on to submissions. I'll lead this one off, and I got the same guy. I had Pettis for my KO of the year. My submission of the year is Anthony Pettis with that anticlimactic submission over Benson Henderson at UFC 164 where he took the belt. We didn't really know what happened until after it happened, but man, Anthony Pettis has a slick guard, son. And I guess if I'm throwing an honorable mention out there, Jacare over Herman back in one of those last Strikeforce cards. That was a pretty excellent submission as well, Ray.
Honourable mention to Josh Burtman over John Fitch, because it was just such a shocker the way he put that guillotine on so tight, and to see Fitch go limp, especially not long after we'd seen Fitch fight Meyer, and Meyer had his back and he just couldn't get anywhere near submitting Fitch. But I'm going to go for, it was an unusual submission, which is why I'm going for it, but it was quite a low-key fight in the UFC. It was Kenny Robertson versus Brock Jardine, and he caught him with, at the time they didn't even have a name for it, and the name came out afterwards, but it was the Suloev stretch. And it was just amazing. I hadn't seen it before, so for that reason, a bit like when I saw a Korean Zombie pull off the Twister, it was new. So for the reason of it, it was a move I hadn't seen before. I'm going for Robertson's Suloev stretch over Jardine.
Word up, Jay.
I think we're doing honourable mentions here. So my honourable mention would be Mitch Gagnon over Dustin Kimura. He rocked him and took his back quicker than anything, and he was out before he even knew what happened, especially when the commentators were like talking about how Mitch Gagnon's never got a KO, but he gets a lot of submissions, and then all of a sudden he drops him and we think he's finally got his first knockout. Nope, he grabs that back and squeezes. But my pick, Ray's mentioned it, my pick for submission of the year is Josh Burkman over John Fitch. It's just crazy. John Fitch didn't know what was happening when he got rocked, and then Burkman just grabbed a hold, and that was it. Game over.
Well, honorable mention for myself would have to be Uriah Faber over Michael McDonald. He big brothered the shit out of Michael McDonald in that fight. That was just an astounding beatdown for Faber. He was looking good as hell. And my submission of the year would have to go to very mainstream, but Ronda Rousey for getting the round 3 armbar over Miesha Tate. Armbar in the bitch again. I thought it was a great showing from Rousey. I personally thought her striking looked improved, which isn't saying all too much considering where she started from, but I think she's headed in the right direction. She showed she can last outside of the first round, and she ended up cinching it up, and it was beautiful. The angle on that thing, very nice.
Very nice. I like. Yeah, definitely a good one. Go back and watch Benson Henderson's fights with Donald Cerrone, the first one, as well as his fight with Jim Miller. The guy has an insane resolve to get out of submissions, and Anthony Pettis put an end to the unsubbable one. That's why it's got to be the sub of the year.
Definitely, and we will move on from our submission of the year to what is the next one? Our card of the year. Whether it was UFC, I think Strikeforce ended at the end of 2013. Bellator World Series of Fighting, RFA, whatever. What is your card of the year, Ray?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to bail out on this one. I struggle with this because I just watched that much, and they just all merge into one. I think I watched every Bellator last year, every UFC. I tried to keep up with XFC, MFC, as well as the UK ones, BAMA, Cage Warriors. So I'm going to pull out of that one just because all the fights just blur into one for me.
I've got a few a few fight cards that really stand out for me. You had Shogun versus Sonnen. That was a crazy card. Then you also had UFC 165. That was Jones versus Gustafsson. But the winner for me was the absolutely crazy card that was UFC 164, Henderson versus Pettis. I mean, you had Soa Paleli versus Nikita Krylov. I absolutely loved that fight. I was laughing the entire way through. You had Gleason Tebow versus Jamie Varner, and just that crazy back and forth fight. Dustin Poirier versus Eric Koch, where every time Eric Koch got dropped, it looked like he had a chance of getting a submission from his back. Ben Rothwell versus Brandon Vera, that third round. I was rolling around in laughter on that third round. Chad Mendes being the first guy to finish Clay Guida. And then the main event and co-main event where after every fight, it was a WTF moment after every fight. I mean, Josh Barnett versus Frank Mir. It was Frank Mir already out, and then Pettis getting that submission out of literally nothing. It was a great card, and every single fight had me either in hysterics or on my feet shouting at the TV. I loved every second of that card.
Yeah, Palele Krylov may have been the worst fight in UFC history. P-Money?
Well, I'm trying to think. I want to say UFC 146 was 2013, the all heavyweight pay-per-view main card. That has to get a high ranking in my book, but really this was just the craziest year for fights. I want to say one weekend there was the most knockouts in a UFC card, and then the weekend after that it was the most submissions on a UFC card in one of the Brazil cards. It was just insane. So hard to pick. I can't even call it.
For me, it's got to be UFC 167, a night of surprises. And I actually had the chance to watch that on a projector, with a nice sound system. So that sticks out. Also, you had, GSP essentially losing his title to most people. You had Rory McDonald getting straight outclassed by a game, veteran. And then, of course, you had my boy Donald Cerrone finally putting in work, looking like shit his last couple fights. So that night really stands out. Every single fight from top to bottom was fantastic.
Yeah, and 167 stands out a little bit for me as well, as it was the first live event I attended. Speaking of live events, I totally forgot to give Chinzo Machida a shout out for KO of the year back at RFA 11. I actually saw that live. Maybe the most brutal knockout I've seen, whether it was live or, on television. Because the guy literally just broke Brian Wood's head. Brian Wood lunged forward for a takedown as Chinzo Machida threw a flying knee. And Chinzo broke his cheekbone, his jaw. Homie broke bones in the roof of Brian Wood's mouth. I didn't even know that was possible. It was just a brutal flying knee. As far as my best event of the year, oh man, I think I gotta give it to UFC 166 actually. Just that was an awesome card. You had John Dodson and Gabe Gonzaga with quick knockouts. You had that Melendez-Sanchez fight. That was one of the best fights of 2013. You had Cormier just put it to Roy Nelson, and of course you had that heavyweight title fight. I love a good round 5 finish, and we had that in Kane versus Junior. Last two topics, Fight of the Year and Fighter of the Year. We'll start off with Fight of the Year, and I'll lead it off. I definitely got to give a honorable mention to Jones versus Gustafsson, and it was almost my fight of the year. I loved Gill versus Diego. I loved Hunt versus Silva. but they were just kind of swinging for the fences, and they were awesome fights, but the lack of technique makes me put Jones Gustafson over it, and my fight at 2013, Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler 2, a back and forth war. I hate to give an award to anything Bellator, but those gladiators went out there and really impressed. Ray, what was your fight of the year?
I think one of the things that stands out for me this year has been there's been quite a lot of blockbuster main events where the main event fighters just for whatever reason has just delivered. We've had wars in the main event. There's been quite a few, of course. We had Bigfoot and Silva recently. Bigfoot and Hunt recently. Of course, Jones and Gustafsson, GSP and Hendricks. JDS and Kane. There's been so many this year where the main event has literally, you've had an okay card and the main events come along and then the card looks great because of how good the main and sometimes the co-main was. But for the fight of the year, I'm going to go for GSP Hendricks. It was such a great fight, such a back and forth fight. And a lot of people felt Hendricks won. I felt Hendricks won. But yeah, for me, my honourable mention would go to Jones and Gus. But for the fight of the year for me, I'd go for Hendricks and GSP. That fight just blew me away.
Yeah, that was a hell of a match. Jay, who's texting me some sort of inane BS.
Anyway, there's a few fights that you've got to give credit for that probably will get overlooked. Bermudez versus Grice, Vanderlei Silva versus Brian Stan. But for me, the fight of the year, it was close. It was going to be Soa versus Nikolai, but I'm going to go with Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot. I love that fight. I'm sure a lot of people did.
Yeah, that fight was insane. I have to give an honorable mention to Takeo Mizugaki versus Nam Fan. That one kind of went under the radar just because I believe it was on the Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot card, which was just so insane. Who could remember anything else on that card but that fight? But for fight of the year 2013, I'm going to have to give it to Gustafson versus Jones. Gustafson just absolutely put it on John Jones, who looked invincible in the UFC, and it was just an amazing fight. So that's my candidate for fight of the year.
Yeah, Ray, you were talking about being really lucky having all these wars. I mean, look back at 2011, it was Shogun Hendo that stood out. And this year, there's been so many of them. Jake, you had a great pick, man. Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler, too, was insane. But, I got to go with one that really flew under the radar, and that's Rory McDonald versus Jake Ellenberger. Bellissimo.
Trolling us, as always. Let's get to the last bit, the 2013 Fighter of the Year. And look, for me, a lot of guys put a great 2013 together. Guys like Faber, Belfort, Johnson, who won a ton of fights in 2014. But I got to give it to a guy who only fought twice, Chris Weidman. He beat the greatest there ever was twice. And now he's top 5 pound for pound, pretty much undisputedly. Yeah, for me, without a doubt, it goes to the All-American Chris Weidman, right?
There has been some amazing fighters this year, and if I'm going to pick, we did honourable mention. I'm going to give an honourable mention to a guy who's been around, forever. He made his debut in the UFC at UFC 13. That's Vitor Belfort. I mean, this year he's had 3 head kick knockout wins, and he's not had none of the fights have been easy on paper. They've all been, top opponents, of course, Belfort, Henderson, and Rockhold. So Belfort's my honourable mention. But for me, there's only one fighter of the year, and that's the man who dethroned Anderson Silva. I mean, Anderson Silva, as far as we're concerned, was unbeatable. He couldn't be stopped. And not only did he beat Silva, he beat him twice. So yeah, for me, Chris Weidman's the fighter of the year.
I've forgotten who I was even going to say then. My honourable mention is Demetrius Johnson. He's 3-0, and for a guy people were saying can't get a finish in his division, he got that first round KO and he got a 5th round submission. That is one way to prove you can do it all right there. But my fighter of the year is actually going to go to Robbie Lawler. I do like the fact all these champions such as Cain Velasquez and Vitor Belfort, they did come into their fights as favourites. Robbie Lawler came into 2 of his fights as the underdog. He had 3 fights this year, finished 2 of them. He's looked fantastic. What a career comeback as well. My fighter of the year is Robbie Lawler.
Great picks all the way around, gentlemen. I think for myself, I'll have to pick actually Uriah Faber for Fighter of the Year for 2013. He went 4-0. I believe he was the only fighter to go 4-0 for the UFC in 2013. And he's just looked great. The whole Alpha Male camp has been looking great since Dwayne Bane-Ludwig came in as their striking coach. And here we have Uriah Faber getting ready for his 5th fight in 11 months. He's on quite a tear. So I'll go ahead and give him the nod for Fighter of the Year for 2013.
Great pick, Pat. I mean, fantastic pick. I actually have a tie for my Fighter of the Year. It's Vitor Belfort, Uriah Faber, because of the way that they did it and the turnaround that they had from the previous years. I mean, Uriah Faber earned his title shot for the first time in a long time. I've been a proponent of saying that Uriah Faber really hasn't earned his keep, and he's been resting on his laurels, but the guy really earned it, man. 3 submissions, all 4 of them were dominant victories, one-sided. He looked great. Vitor Belfort coming out, doing some ninja shit, knocking people out that shouldn't be knocked out all year long. The only reason I didn't go for Weidman versus Anderson Silva 2 times is because I think Weidman caught Anderson at the tail end of his career, man. If it was 2008 or 2009 Anderson, I'd be more impressed. So that's the only reason I went for the tie.
Word. And those were our 2013 Awards of the Year, our KO Submission Card, Fighter, and Fight. And without any further ado, I think Ray has the tweets this week he will be hosting. And it's time for Guess That Tweet!
Woo!
Take it away, Ray.
Okay, so we've got guess that tweet. There's 4 people playing. So what we're going to do, I'm going to mix things up a little bit, just because I can. So we've got 4 of us playing. There's 4 tweets, and if it's a tie after 4 tweets, we'll go to a tie break for the ones that are tied. I haven't got the order up, so I'll leave you to sort that out between you. So tweet number 1 is went to buy hair gel. Asked the lady what she recommended. She asked if she could touch my hair. Was tempted to pull my pants down. Ha. Was that A, Ulysses Gomez, B, Luke Barnett, C, Roy Nelson, or D, John Maguire?
I don't even know which one of those has hair gel. I mean, you said John Maguire. He's not even relevant anymore, so I don't know why anybody would be tweeting about that. Who was the last 2 you said? Sorry.
Ulysses Gomez, Luke Barnett, Roy Nelson, John Maguire.
I'll go for Luke Barnett. He probably gels his hair.
I'm going to go with Luke Barnett. Well, for 2 reasons. A, because I could see Luke saying that. B, because Jay is a dirty cheater, and I'm sure he cheated, and that's the right answer.
Filthy. Yeah, I'm going with useless Ulysses Gomez.
Gosh darn it. And I am going to mix it up, and I'm going to go with John Maguire.
Okay, so we've got 1 for Ulysses, 1 for John, 2 for Luke, and 1 for Roy. Well, it wasn't Roy, and it wasn't John Maguire, and it wasn't Luke Barnett. It was the useless one, Ulysses Gomez. So Chris,
hey!
Right, tweet number 2. Finally, I had to explain to my 8-year-old son what slavery was. So now he won't help me with my yard work unless I pay him. Hashtag black people problems. Was that A, John Howard, B, Dean Thomas, C, Yves Edwards, or D, Kimbo Slice?
I'm going to go with Dean Thomas.
I'm going to go with Dean Thomas as well.
It was Dean Thomas, Yves Edwards, Kimbo Slice, and who else?
John Howard.
John Howard. I'm going to go with the Thug Jitsu master, Yves Edwards. He's usually tweeting pretty funny stuff.
I'll go for John Howard, I guess.
Okay, so we've got 1 for John, 2 for Ease, 1 for John, 1 for Ease, 2 for Dean, and none for Kimbo. So it wasn't Kimbo, and it wasn't John Howard, and it wasn't Ease Edwards, it was Dean Thomas. So we've got a point for Patrick and Chris.
Yeah, suck my dick.
Woo!
Okay, here's tweet number 3. At Life Coaches, wherever you are right now, stop, take a moment, and remember your soul. Psych. Laugh out loud, souls are stupid. Was that A, Conor McGregor, B, Ulysses Gomez, C, DeMarcus Johnson, or D, John Maguire?
Are these the same as last time?
No, they're different.
I will go with... Oh, I don't know, John Maguire, why not?
Yeah, I have no idea, so Conor McGregor, why not?
I'm going with DeMarcus Johnson. Guy hasn't fought in a while. He's probably training.
Well, I'm going to go with John McGuire once again. He's got to be on here for a reason.
Okay, so we've got 2 going for John, 1 going for Conor, none going for Ulysses, and 1 going for DeMarcus. It wasn't Ulysses, it wasn't Conor, it wasn't John. I think Chris is doing a Joe this week. Chris has got 3 points. It was DeMarcus Johnson.
Oh, I feel so good.
And I think that clinches it for him, doesn't it?
But it does clinch it, but we'll do the last tweet. I've got 2 more tweets, so we'll do them just for fun.
Sounds good.
So, tweet number 4. So, I get why at Nate Diaz 209 won't fight me. Get to him later. As for at Team Khabib, you ain't really fought nobody to say I need to work up to you. # joke. Was that A, Michael Johnson, B, Joe Lauzon, C, Danny Castillo, or D, Bobby Green?
Oh, I think that has to be Michael Johnson.
Yeah, I'm going Michael Johnson. Sorry to ride on your coattails there, Pat, but that makes sense to me too.
Yeah, no way it could be Lauzon. He's too nice a guy. I was going to go with Bobby Green, but you know what? I want to be popular like you guys. Michael Johnson.
I'll go for Bobby Green, why not?
Right, there's no drama. We know Jay isn't cheating this week. It was Michael Johnson. Right, the last tweet is short and sweet. This was going to be the tiebreaker one. All these guys are connected. As soon as I read the names out, you know how they're connected. But all the tweet says is long ass day finally over. Was that A, Colin Fletcher, B, Norman Park, C, Brendan Loughnane, or D, Mike Wilkinson?
I'll go for... No, I don't even know these guys. Colin Fletcher.
I'll go with Junior Dos Santos.
I'm going to go with Wilkinson because D.
I'm going Brendan Loughnane.
Right, of course, these were the 4 lightweights on Tough Smashes. You probably know I've interacted with all 4 of them. Got a good relationship with a few of them. But yeah, it was C. It was Brendan Loughnane. So point to Patrick, but the winner, of course, is Chris.
Oh, God, it feels so good.
Chris, you have do you have any words for your fans back home taking the championship back to California?
Yeah, I just want to thank all my competitors. You guys were awesome, but just not good enough. I want to thank my mom for giving birth, and I want to thank marijuana. Thank you.
Woo! Thank God for marijuana. Let us move on. Ray, are you going to stick around with us for the UFC Fight Night 35 preview, or do you have to pop off?
I'm gonna have to pop off now. I've got to be up in a few hours to go and do another run. I'm gonna burn some more fat.
Well, keep on.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep on keeping
Goodbye,
on.
sir.
Anything else you want to shout out before we let you go?
Just want to say to Jay, thank you, Jay. I know I've got some guys that you don't follow, but we couldn't have you winning all the time.
That's
No,
right,
that's
Jay.
fair play, man. You did a
Fucking
good job.
right.
I can't believe I got 0. That's like a personal worst or some shit.
That's like a personal win for me then, isn't it? Just because Jay got 0.
That's
He
right.
should get a point for that. He should get a point. Give him a point.
Part of me
Yeah,
thinks Jay was throwing it because he always cheats. Sorry, Ray.
No, that's all right. I am still doing interviews. I'm I'm just doing single interviews rather than doing shows at the moment. I've changed what I'm doing, and I'm interviewing for a couple of big Facebook pages. So check out UFC Live on Facebook and MMA Fighting on Facebook. They've got a combined like of about 200,000, so it's definitely they're good pages. They're definitely worth checking and following if you're not already following them. And I'm writing for Your MMA as well, which is a big UK website, so check them out as well. That's yourmma.tv, and it's been great. It's been nice having you all and speaking to you all.
Is there any way to follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, sorry, my Twitter's still at MMA Mental.
Word up. Well, Ray, thank you for coming on. You're an inspiration, both in all the hard work you put in with MMA and interviews, along with losing, fucking 86 stone, whatever it is. It's, you are impressing the shit out of us, inspiring us. Keep it going, buddy.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you all soon.
Take it easy.
Cheers, mate.
Too.
And there he goes, Sugar Ray Thompson. It's just the four of us now, Jay, Chris, Patrick, and myself. Things are about to get a little weird now. Let's get to the prelims of UFC Fight Night 35, the card we're going to be breaking down. I believe the prelims kick off at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'll look up those times in just a second, but that is going to be tomorrow. Duluth, Georgia, the arena at Gwinnett Center. And yeah, let's break down these prelims in a bunch first. First, on the Fight Pass prelims, they're no longer the Facebook prelims, which Fight Pass is such a fail, man, for so many reasons. They're not encrypting people's passwords, so people's passwords are sort of put in danger. If you want to cancel it, it's literally a week-long process where you have to email a person and wait for them to email you back. Along with the side that I don't follow the WWE at all, but the WWE has introduced their own sort of version of Fight Pass that's $10 a month, gives you every pay-per-view, saves you a ton of money. You don't need to buy a single pay-per-view. It has every pay-per-view from the past in a library, so you can go back and watch it. They have a 24/7 thing. They've really sort of put the UFC Fight Pass to shame. And honestly, I hope I can stream Fight Pass things in the future, even if it's free, because when it comes down to it, I don't want my, password compromised, this and that. So we'll definitely see what happens with the Fight Pass going forward. But the Fight Pass prelims are going to have 2 lightweight fights. You had Charlie Brenneman get cut from the UFC, then he moved down to lightweight. He won 4 straight fights and the lightweight championship in a minor promotion. The UFC has brought him back up. I love Charlie. He was on our second episode. He's going to be taking on Beniel Darush in the first fight, and in the second fight on the Fight Pass, we're going to see Vince from Hell Pichel take on Garrett Whiteley. And up on the Fox Sports 1 prelim card, we got a flyweight fight between Alptekin Ozkilik, hope I got his name right, and Louis Smolka. Middleweight fight between Trevor Smith and Brian Houston, and 2 more lightweight fights between Isaac Valley Flag and Elias Silverio. And Ramsey Nijum taking on Justin Edwards. What fights stand out? What fighters stand out? I'm really going to be looking at Brenneman, seeing what wrestling he's bringing to the table at 155. This dude beat Rick Story. Isaac Valley Flag, Justin Edwards, of course, and not that flyweight whose name I can't pronounce. Man, I couldn't even pronounce. Jay, what are your thoughts on the prelims?
Yeah, it should be an actual fun card. I'm very excited for this one. As you mentioned, Alp versus Smolka. That's a very interesting fight. Alp's got this incredible Turkish wrestling background, but Smolka, his opponent, he's a very, very big flyweight. I think he's something like 6'3", so he's got a hell of a reach. That'll be a fun fight. Ramsey Nijum, oh, that was hilarious. He got caught in a guillotine. How amateur a move was that? But yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. The most exciting fight of all of this, other than the Alp fight, is that Charlie Brenneman return. Let's see how good he is at lightweight.
Well, I think for me, I have to pick Alp versus Smolka as my most interesting fight for the 6-fight undercard. It's just good to see more contenders in the flyweight division. It's just going to be good to see how Alp does. He's coming really short notice off of a split decision over Darren Uyen Oyama. Looking to see what he can do on short notice here. Trevor Smith versus Brian Houston. That should be pretty good as well. And I'm also looking forward to Ike Valley Flag versus Elias Silverio. Silverio looks huge for a 155er. Valley Flag brought a very entertaining fight in his UFC debut. All around a good solid mix on the undercard.
Yeah, like Jake said, man, Charlie Brenneman, he may not be my favorite fighter out there, or even the top 10 or the top 100, but we had the chance of speaking with him and interviewing him, and he was one of our first. So I got to support that guy. I think he'll do very well. Obviously, another big time name on here is Isaac Valley Flag, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, beat Brian Melanson, Jasius Cavalcante, and Eve Edwards in a row. That's a pretty good win streak there. So that's a guy to watch. And fuck Ramsey Ninjum, because there's only one Ramses in my life.
That's right, and he is a huge fan of Eves Edwards going back a step. I got the fight start times for UFC Fight Night 35 right in front of me now. The Fight Pass prelims start at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. The prelims on Fox Sports 1 start at 5 Eastern, and the main card on Fox Sports 1 will start at 7 Eastern. That is all tomorrow night. Let's stay on the same track, though, with the bottom half of the main card. Let's break those 3 fights down. And we have a featherweight match between Cole Miller and Sam Sicilia, a flyweight match between John Moraga, who recently fought for the belt, and Dustin Ortiz, and a middleweight match between Yoel Romero and Derek Brunson. And actually, all of these fights, people aren't talking about them much, but I'm definitely paying attention. Miller versus Cecilia. Cecilia's a really underrated guy. Miller has sort of, his rank has dropped a little bit the last couple of years, but I'm always interested to see what he's going to be doing on the ground. John Moraga, like I just mentioned, recently fought for the belt, so in a title contender, we're going to see a hell of a fight out of him. Yoel Romero and Derek Brunson. Look, Derek Brunson's a guy who I think has unbelievably underrated wrestling. The guy knows what he's doing, but at the same time, my boy Yoel Romero beat Cale Sanderson 3 times. Olympic gold medalist Cale Sanderson 3 times in freestyle wrestling. So you really got to respect Yoel Romero. A little bit older, he is 36 to Derek Brunson's 30, but a little smaller too. But he is a monster, coming off 2 KOs against Clifford Starks and Ronnie Marquez back in November. So, you know what? I'm going with Yoel Romero in that one, and that's the fight that stands out, for me at least. What do you guys think? Patrick, what are your thoughts on those 3 fights?
Yeah, out of those 3 fights, I definitely have to pick Yoel Romero Palacio versus Derek Brunson as the standout. Like you mentioned, Palacio, he just has the outstanding wrestling credentials, and he showed that he can bring it into mixed martial arts as well. Honey Marks had been grappling up everybody, and Romero was having none of it. Ended up TKOing Honey Marks. It was a fantastic showing, and quite frankly, I'm expecting a similar performance from Yoel come tomorrow night.
Yeah. These fights are looking really good. Cole Miller versus Sam Sicilia. I think that's going to be the most competitive fight. I think that might even honestly be fight of the night. It's looking like a barn burner. Both of these guys are kind of new to featherweight and really have something to prove. So I think we're going to see fireworks there. John Moraga versus Dustin Ortiz. Moraga wipes the floor with Ortiz. It's not even going to be close. Either a dominant decision or a quick knockout. And I think Yoel Romero is going to starch Derek Brunson. I mean, Derek Brunson does have great wrestling, but Yoel Romero is on a whole nother level, and his striking is just really funky and, excuse me, unorthodox. So I see Yoel just blasting out Derek Brunson within 2 rounds.
Starching him. I love that term. He ain't on the paleo diet. He's starching him, motherfucker. Jay?
Miller Cecilia all these fights are fantastic matchups when you actually think about them. Miller versus Cecilia is great. I'm a huge fan of Cecilia, and I absolutely hate Cole Miller. That said, I'm putting some money on Miller. It's just got to be done, I think, at this stage. Miller's just too much of a veteran to get hit with one of those looping left or right hands. Ortiz versus Moraga. Unlike Chris, I am picking the underdog in this one. I think Ortiz has got what it takes to out-wrestle Moraga. I mean, DJ went 12 for 12 on something on Moraga. Ortiz, all he has to do is get a hold of him and push him against that fence, and I think eventually he'll get the takedown. And then finally, you guys have said it enough. Derek Brunson versus Romero. That was a hell of a fight. Romero's going to be throwing spinning shit. Let's not forget that. He's been throwing flying knees, spinning back kicks. We've seen him throw everything, and that's because he's not afraid of the takedown. Derek Brunson's got some wrestling as well, man, and that will be a barn burner. It's just a question of who's going to get tired quicker. Either way, I think that Romero's going to land something before it gets into those late stages, and Brunson's going to go out like a light.
Word up. That is the take from one of my favorite people in the UK. Let's move on. We're going to start breaking fights down individually now, and the first one of those is going to be TJ Dillashaw taking on Mike Easton. Two young bantamweights who I think we're going to be talking about them for a long time. Dillashaw, obviously that Team Alpha Male product. He was on a 4-fight winning streak before he lost a semi-controversial split decision to Rafael Assunção. Mike Easton, the DC product, the Hulk. He's a black belt in Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under known rapist Lloyd Irvin. He also was on a himself was on a pretty impressive 8-fight winning streak, including his first 3 UFC fights before his last 2 fights that he unfortunately dropped, both by decision, a unanimous decision to Rafael Assunção, again, like Dillashaw, back in December 2012, and his lone fight in 2013, a split decision loss to Brad Pickett. Personally, I have Dillashaw winning this. I definitely think Easton is top 10 talent, but Dillashaw, I mean, this kid's probably going to fight for the title before he retires. Seems to be getting better and better every fight, and that really does seem to be the MO of these Team Alpha Male guys under Dwayne Ludwig. Definitely want to try and get him on the show again soon. But, yeah, who the fuck goes first? Chris, who do you have with Tyler Jeffrey Dillashaw taking on Michael Easton?
Is it really Tyler Jeffrey?
Tyler Jeffrey Dillashaw.
Wow, okay. Didn't even know that. Yet another reason to hate the guy. I don't like either of these guys for some reason. Yeah, when it comes to this matchup, I don't really see greatness out of either of these guys. If you look at TJ's UFC career, he really has dominated some subpar competition, to be quite honest. Vaughn Lee, Wallow Watson, Issei Tamura, Hugo Viana, none of these guys are even close to sniffing out the top 20. And yet here we have this guy talking about getting a title shot and whatnot. And then we got Mike Easton over here, who has fought some solid competition, man. Ivan Menjivar, Rafael Assunção, Brad Pickett. Both of these guys have something to prove coming off losses, especially Mike Easton. He's coming off of 2 losses, one by unanimous, one by split. We got TJ coming off of a close decision loss to Assunção. So I got to say that Mike Easton has faced the better competition, and I think he has more to prove. So I'm going Mike Easton, probably split decision.
I've never hated a fighter more than I do hate Mike Easton. The guy just winds me up, man. I'll admit I've only seen 3 of his fights, but all 3 have bored the living shit out of me. The Jared Papazian fight, the Ivan Menjivar fight, and the Rafael Assunção fight. What does this guy do, man? Like, he just does my head in. It's like he goes to throw a punch, but then gets a bit scared of throwing it, so he kind of only semi-throws it. He's boring as shit. I'd rather watch John Fitch fight 5 times in a row than see one of Mike Easton's fights. I just absolutely hate the guy. I hope TJ knocks this guy's head off. I think Jake's right. TJ will eventually fight for a title shot. but I think that's only because the division will be thin. I think Rafael Assunção will probably get the next shot after Faber Barao. I'm assuming Barao will win, by the way. It will be Barao Assunção, then TJ Dillashaw will probably have got his second win, and he'll probably fight Barao, and I think Barao will also finish him as well. So but TJ Dillashaw, I can see the hype on him. I can't see any hype on Mike Easton, but I think Chris is right. It is weird to see these guys 6th and 7th in the division. Maybe it just says how slim this division really is.
Damn it, Jay, I love hearing you talk. I'm so torn on this fight. This is really a close fight in the fantasy MMA realm. Mike Easton, what he does, and Jay, I know you would question it. What does he do? What he does, he walls and stalls. He's not really, in my mind, that's how I describe Mike Easton. He will wall and stall you. He'll cage fuck you and just press you against that cage. And he throws these arm punches that just, the technique doesn't seem to be there. It's just, I can't even really explain it. The only thing for me is TJ Dillashaw, can he respond to that pressure? Has he evolved enough? He did look good rattling off those 4 wins, as Chris pointed out, though, against some questionable competition. So it's a tough one to call for me. I want to say Dillashaw, and you know what? I'm going to say Dillashaw, but I'm not ruling Mike Easton out at all.
Word up. Yeah, Dillashaw is a heavy favorite in Vegas. I believe he's like minus 300 or something like that. Let's move on to the co-main event. A middleweight bout. The main and co-main are both middleweight bouts. The first one, though, is going to be between Lorenz Larkin and Brad Tavares. Tavares a little bit bigger, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Larkin 5'11", 72-inch reach. Tavares at a 2-inch advantage in both of those categories. And both of them are coming off wins. Tavares on a 4-fight winning streak, the most recent against the guy we're going to probably have on the show pretty soon, and Bubba McDaniel, who I will admit I hated during Tough 17, but when I got a chance to meet him and actually talk to him for a while at UFC 167, he's a super nice guy. Tavares himself, an Ultimate Fighter alumni. He was on Tough 11 before losing to Court McGee in the semifinals. All of his last 5 fights have gone the distance to decision. Larkin, on the other hand, his last 5 fights have also gone to a decision, if you don't count the Muhammad Lawal no contest, where Lawal knocked out Larkin, but then the result was changed to an NC after Lawal tested positive for the steroid drostanolone. But in this, both guys, it's kind of interesting, and the one thing I would point out on both of their records, they both only have 1 loss. Tavares, his only loss was way back in 2011 against Aaron Simpson. Lorenz Larkin, his most recent loss was against the up-and-coming Francis Carmont back at UFC on Fox. Melendez versus Henderson on Foe 20 in April 13. But, these are 2 extremely underrated middleweights, and if people say they're both bums, then I know immediately, you obviously don't know much about them, because like I said, Larkin at 14-1, Tavares at 11-1, these guys are not messing around. Saying that, though, I definitely got to pick Larkin, who, like Dillashaw, is a sizable favorite as far as Vegas goes. And usually Vegas knows what they're talking about. I actually thought it would be a little bit closer, but they got Larkin at minus 225, which for you non-bettors means if you want to profit $100, you need to bet 225 on him. So he is a pretty sizable favorite, and because of that, and pretty much that alone, I'm going to take Lorenz Larkin, the Monsoon. What do you guys think?
This is a very technical matchup. Both guys just love to strike, man. But when it comes down to it, I think Lorenzo Larkin is just a bit better. We've seen Tavares get rocked, but we've seen Larkin get knocked out. So it should be a fun fight. I mean, I'd say more likely Brad Tavares will get the finish, but Larkin is a much better striker in my eyes. Brad Tavares could mix it up and get some takedowns as well. This could be a fun fight. I'm picking this one for fight of the night only because I think two men will go in there and just Muay Thai it up. Just leg kicks, head kicks, the jabs, the crosses. We're going to see a good fight. That's all I can think.
I agree. This fight should be fantastic. Larkin, I believe he should be 15-0. In my opinion, he beat Carmont. He had the much better striking in that fight. I thought his grappling was good, but that's a whole different story. I'm always picking Brad Tavares' fights wrong. I don't know how, but I can't explain it. However, I just feel that Larkin is going to have what it takes to put it on him. His striking is that much better, although Tavares has just improved ever since that Aaron Simpson loss, which was some time ago. But I just believe Larkin is a touch better in all areas. I think his lower center of gravity will help give him the advantage in the clinch and grappling situations. I'm picking Larkin for the decision.
You guys are out of your fucking mind. You guys are crazy. Lorenz Larkin got beat by Francis Carmont via grappling. Should have won, yeah, but he got beat. That blueprint has been laid out. Brad Tavares trains at Extreme Couture. He's got an insane amount of wrestling talent around him. I think he trains at Robert Drysdale's as well. So I think Brad Tavares has the grappling chops. We're going to see a wrestle fuck and clinch fuck of a fight. This fight is not going to deliver. I can tell you right now, it's going to be really boring. And let's not forget, Brad Tavares beat Phil Baroni, who is the best ever. Can't forget that.
The New York Badass is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Let's get to the main event, a middleweight match between Luke Rockhold and Costa Phillippou. But before we break it down, let's bring you the stat of the day.
Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day!
Both guys in the main event belong there. Luke Rockhold was the only Strikeforce middleweight champ to defend his belt twice, and he had the most finishes in Strikeforce history with 7. Costa, on the other hand, lands big and from the outside. 71% of his strikes from distance, 88% to the head, most in UFC middleweight history.
Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day!
Yes, as Chris says in the chat, he is one accurate motherfucker. And of course, shout out to the Dan Patrick Show, Patrick Seaton, O'Connor, and Jamie Josta for the stat of the day music. And let's get to it. Luke Rockhold, Costa Phillippou, someone else who I'm sure can appreciate the stat of the day drop because he also watches the beautiful Dan Patrick Show. Not calling Dan Patrick beautiful, although he is, but the show is beautiful. If you follow other sports, you should definitely watch that every morning on NBC Sports Network. Enough about the goddamn Dan Patrick Show, Patrick. Who you got? Luke Rockhold versus Costa Phillippou.
Wow. Well, I do love the Dan Patrick Show. Who doesn't? But I love this main event. Oh, Chris, shut the fuck up. You are such a terrible liar.
That's right.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. I'm so fired up. I can't wait. This is going to be a good fight. Costa Phillippou, he really reminds me of a Chuck Liddell style fighter. Not at all comparing him to Chuck Liddell, but in the sense that he uses the wrestling in reverse. He's got the takedown defense, and he's got the solid boxing. He likes to piece people up, keep it standing. Luke Rockhold, you could arguably say the same thing. He's got chops everywhere it goes. He's got a good Muay Thai game, I'd say more so than a traditional boxing style. It's just going to be good. I'm really hoping they don't just pussyfoot around. This is the main event. I'm hoping to see some fireworks, and I'm taking Luke Rockhold, 4th round TKO.
Word up. Chris Lowe, you don't watch the Dan Patrick Show, so I have one sound effect for you before you break down this fight.
Oh, come on. That's my jam, bro. How are you going to pull that out on me? You son of a bitch. You goddamn son of a bitch. This fight is looking to be pretty good. We got 2 top 10 middleweights. Luke Rockhold is what would you call him? A physical specimen, I guess you could say. He's 6'3". He's long. He's kind of Anderson Silva, like a very long, rangy fighter. He likes to stay on the outside and use some fancy shit, jumping, roundhouse switch kicks, all kinds of stuff. He actually grapples very well for a guy that's built like him. And Costa Phillippou is a fire plug. He's 5'11", something like that. Built like fucking Mike Tyson. This is a very interesting matchup. I honestly can't really pick this one because I think that they both have something to prove coming off losses. They both have different skill sets. At the end of the day, Costa is very accurate, but Luke, I think, has the grappling advantage. So I would have to say this is going to be a back and forth fight. Probably goes 5 rounds, split decision, but I can't call who's going to win.
I'm pretty confident in Luke in this one. I think he's going to take Costa down and get the submission. He's going to do it pretty damn quickly in my eyes. The thing you guys got to remember about Costa is he was doing absolutely incredibly. He had the win over Tim Boach. He was tearing people up like Jared Hammond, making them look like idiots. But then Chris Weidman rose to the top. And Constantino Phillippou said, I can't stay at Matt Serra's. I can see the writing on the wall. I'm leaving this camp. So off he went, and he's now at the famous, probably the best camp in the world, the Baltimore Kickboxing Academy, where I'm sure he's got some incredible training partners over there, such as Chris Weidman. Oh, no, he won't have Chris Weidman. No, he won't have Matt Serra. No, he won't have Ray Longo. In fact, I don't think he's got anybody of note over there. So the best we've seen in Constantino Phillippou is long behind us. It's only downhill. The last fight was a decision lost by WrestleFuck. This one is going to be Luke Rockhold getting his back before you know it and getting the submission. I just hope Rockhold doesn't stand with him for too long because that will be where Constantino's good. But other than that, it's Luke's all day.
Luke is a huge favorite. He isn't just a sizable favorite, but I believe he's something like minus 400, which really kind of shocks me. I thought it would at least be a little bit closer. Luke is definitely a skilled grappler. He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I think Costa, he definitely learned a lot from his last loss to a guy who wasn't as strong as him, and Francis Carmont just had better grappling technique. He is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so don't think for a second he is not training that and not getting better all the time. I'm actually picking Costa Phillippou with an upset here. It is my upset special of the night. I think Luke will be willing to strike with him, mainly because he has such a size advantage. He's 6'3", 77-inch reach compared to Costa's 5'11", 73-inch reach. He has a 4-inch disadvantage in both of those categories. But like I mentioned in the stat of the day, Costa Phillippou loves fighting from the outside as well. 71% of his strikes are from distance. And like I mentioned, he has a UFC middleweight record with 88.1% of his strikes going to the head. I really think Costa and Luke are going to bang. Jay, I totally agree with you when you said the co-main event is going to be a boring WrestleFest and we're all going to fall asleep. But I think this is going to be an exciting fight. I think both guys are going to stand. And I actually am taking Costa Phillippou with the upset, although Luke is a huge favorite, so I'm not really doubting you all that much on the Luke pick. If he wins, I wouldn't, be shocked or anything. But I believe that does it. We broke down all the things we came to break down today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really mean it. All the positive feedback. Even if you just listen, we appreciate the shit out of it. Thank you so much. And of course, a shout out to our boy Ray, who had to dip off a little early because that man, he is on a journey. He is fighting in an MMA exhibition match, which we will bring you more information about as the time draws near. He isn't fighting a fighter or anything. Don't worry. Our Ray isn't going to get beat the fuck up. Actually, I think he's like fighting a friend or a promoter or something. So it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, follow him at MMA Mental and keep in contact with all the things he shouted out. He's always got so much on his plate. It's hard to keep up with. So shout out to Ray. Jay, anything you want to plug?
I like butt plugs.
Jay likes butt plugs. P Money?
Oh shit, you got to get that drop. That's fantastic. Just holler at your boy at Sweet Pappy Jones on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever the fuck, at Sweet Pappy Jones. Holler at MMA Mental at MMA Mental. J Jeans at J_Jeans. The MMA Podcast at the MMA Podcast. Chris Lowe at C Lowenstein. God damn it. And you know what? Shout out to Ramses at the Aunt Jimmy Show and Buffalo Dave at Buffalo Dave 10. Isn't that what it is? Buffalo Dave 10?
Hell yeah.
Random ass number? Yeah.
I think it's 10.
Follow up.
Follow up, cocksuckers. Chris? Chris?
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. My only shout out this week is I like the fact that J Jeans likes butt plugs. Fantastic.
Hell yeah, J Jeans loves them butt plugs. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate the shit out of it. Listen to the MMA Podcast every Monday night, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. The MMA Roundtable, we'll try and bring it to you more often than every 3 months. We'll try and do it Tuesdays. Patrick, shout out the Twitters, so I don't need to shout it out. We appreciate the shit out of you. Till next time, friends. We gone!
Rocking with our science, silencing all these idiots caught up in all their ignorance. Two clans fighting under the same banner. We all got love for this ground game, and that's all that matters. In the balance, the teachings of the Grandmaster. I'm trying to master the system, that's what I'm after. And stay true to the